If you are over 55 and you think you already know everything you need to travel safely and smoothly, this video is going to stop you cold. Because the truth is, most seasoned travelers are making critical mistakes they do not even realize until it is too late. We are not talking about minor inconveniences. We are talking about missed flights, confiscated medications, denied boarding, and medical emergencies that could have been completely avoided. The information that travel agents will not tell you, that airlines bury in the fine print, and that most people only discover the hard way. We are putting it all on the table right now. This is not a gentle reminder. This is the wake-up call that could be the difference between the trip of your lifetime and an absolute disaster. So if you are serious about traveling smarter, safer, and without the stress that derails so many people your age, you need to stay locked in for every single second of this video. Every single day, thousands of travelers over 55 get stopped, delayed, or turned away at security checkpoints, not because they did anything wrong, but because nobody told them the rules had changed. This is not a minor inconvenience. This is your vacation, your family reunion, your hard-earned trip being ripped away from you in the middle of a security line while other passengers walk right past. The information gap is real, it is growing, and it is costing people exactly the kind of travel experiences they worked decades to enjoy. If you are still relying on what you knew about airport travel 5 years ago, you are already behind, and the consequences of that gap are not small. We are cutting through the confusion right now, giving you the direct, no-nonsense breakdown of exactly what documents, medications, and medical considerations you need to have locked down before you ever leave your front door. Let's talk about TSA and medications first, because this is the #1 concern we hear from travelers over 55. And here is the good news. TSA does make real accommodations for passengers with medical needs, so you have more flexibility than you might think. Prescription medications in pill or solid form are allowed in both your carry-on and your checked baggage. There is technically no limit on the quantity, as long as the amount is reasonable for the length of your trip. So if you are heading out for 2 weeks and you need a full 2-week supply of multiple prescriptions, that is completely acceptable. The key word TSA uses is reasonable, and for most travelers managing ongoing health conditions, your normal supply will never raise a flag. If you have been cramming your medications into tiny bottles, stressing at security checkpoints, or worse, leaving essential prescriptions at home because you thought they would not make it through, you have been operating on outdated, incomplete information, and it is costing you. The rules around traveling with medication are not as complicated as the internet makes them seem, but getting them wrong can mean delayed flights, confiscated supplies, or a medical emergency you could have easily avoided. This guide is going to cut through every myth, every vague TSA statement, and every piece of bad travel advice you have ever received, and give you the exact no-nonsense breakdown of what you are actually allowed to bring on a plane when it comes to your medications. Whether you are managing a chronic condition, traveling with injectable treatments, or simply trying to bring your daily prescriptions without the airport drama, pay close attention, because what you are about to read changes everything about how you pack. Now let's talk about what you should actually do to prepare your medications before your travel day. First, and most importantly, keep all prescriptions in their original labeled pharmacy bottles. This is not required by TSA, but it makes the screening process significantly smoother and avoids unnecessary questions from officers who may not recognize a medication by sight. Think of those original labels as your first line of defense against delays at the checkpoint. Beyond that, carry a printed list of all your medications, including the exact dosages and the name of your prescribing doctor. If you are traveling internationally, this document becomes even more critical. Some countries require proof that your medications are legitimately prescribed, and having that printed list ready can save you from serious complications at customs or border control. For travelers who use medical devices, there are specific TSA protocols you absolutely need to know before your travel day. CPAP machines must be removed from your carry-on bag and placed in a separate bin for screening, just like laptops. This applies even if you have a special travel case for it. So always plan for that extra moment at the checkpoint. Insulin pumps can typically stay on your body, but let the officer know in advance. If you have a pacemaker or any other implanted device, notify the TSA officer before you step into the screening area. They are trained to offer an alternative screening method, such as a pat-down, instead of sending you through the body scanner. Speaking up early makes the entire process faster and far less stressful for everyone involved. Portable oxygen concentrators deserve their own moment here, because many travelers over 55 depend on them daily. The Federal Aviation Administration has approved most major portable oxygen concentrator brands for in-flight use, but airlines require advance notice, usually a minimum of 48 hours before departure. Simply showing up with your device and expecting smooth boarding is a gamble you do not want to take. You will also need a letter from your physician that specifically states your oxygen flow rate and confirms you are medically fit to fly. Some airlines have their own forms they prefer you use, so check directly with your carrier when booking. Do not assume the airline will automatically accommodate you without proper documentation in hand. A quick phone call and a prepared letter can make all the difference between boarding confidently and facing unnecessary delays at the gate. Transitioning now to real ID, and honestly, the confusion around this topic is completely understandable, given how many times the deadline has been pushed back over the years. But here is where things stand right now. As of May 2025, Real ID enforcement is officially in effect for domestic air travel in the United States. This is no longer a future deadline you can put off. It is happening right now at airports across the country. What this means practically is that your standard state-issued driver's license may no longer be accepted at airport security if it does not meet federal standards. And if you show up with a non-compliant ID, you could be denied entry through the checkpoint entirely, which is absolutely a situation we want to help you avoid. So, how do you actually know if your ID is real ID compliant? It is simpler than you might think. Just look at the upper right corner of your driver's license or state ID card. If you see a gold or black star printed there, you are good to go. That star is your confirmation that your card meets federal standards. No star means you will need to take action before your next flight. In that case, you have two options. You can get a new Real ID compliant card from your state, or you can use an acceptable alternative form of identification. Those alternatives include a United States passport, a passport card, a military ID, or a trusted traveler card like Global Entry or TSA PreCheck. Any of those will get you through security without any issues. For travelers who do not yet have a real ID, here is exactly what the process looks like. First, and most importantly, you must visit your local Department of Motor Vehicles in person. This cannot be done online, so plan accordingly. When you go, bring proof of identity such as a birth certificate or passport. You will also need proof of your Social Security number, which can be your Social Security card or a tax document displaying it. Finally, bring two separate documents proving your current address. Things like utility bills or bank statements work perfectly. Now we know that sounds like a lot to gather, but here is the reassuring part. Once you have those documents in hand, the actual appointment is usually quick and straightforward. Start collecting early. Now here is a word of caution specifically for our 55-plus audience. If you have had a name change due to marriage or divorce, you may need additional documentation to connect your legal name across all your records. This means bringing a marriage certificate, divorce decree, or both, depending on your history. Your birth certificate might show one name, your social security card another, and your current license a third. The DMV needs to see a clear legal trail connecting all of them. This is a step that many people completely overlook, and it is one of the most common reasons for delays or outright rejections during the real ID application process. So, plan ahead, gather every relevant document, and give yourself extra time before your travel date. Now let's shift to medical clearance requirements, because this is an area that is growing in importance, especially for travelers with chronic conditions, recent surgeries, or heart-related concerns. If you have experienced a significant medical event recently, you may be required to provide documentation before you are even allowed to board. Some airlines and cruise lines have started requiring what is called a fitness to fly or fitness to travel letter from your physician. This is an official written statement confirming that you are medically stable and safe to travel. It is not just a formality. Carriers take this seriously, and so should you. Knowing when this requirement applies to your specific situation is absolutely critical to avoiding delays, denials, or worse, a medical emergency mid-journey with no preparation in place. Generally speaking, if you have had a heart attack, stroke, major surgery, or hospitalization within the past few weeks to few months, most airlines recommend or require physician clearance before you board. The specific time frame varies by airline and by condition. For example, an uncomplicated heart attack typically requires a waiting period of about 2 to 3 weeks before flying. More complex cardiac events, such as those requiring stenting, bypass surgery, or extended intensive care stays, may require significantly longer clearance timelines before your doctor and the airline consider it safe for you to travel. The same applies to strokes and major orthopedic or abdominal surgeries. Do not guess on this one. Contact your airline directly. Ask about their specific policy and loop in your physician early so there are no last-minute surprises at the gate. Even if your condition does not require formal clearance, a conversation with your doctor before any major trip is genuinely one of the smartest things you can do. And we mean a real, specific conversation, not just a quick mention at the end of a routine appointment. Ask directly about how altitude and cabin pressure might affect your particular condition. Ask whether your medications need timing adjustments when you are crossing multiple time zones, because some prescriptions are sensitive to schedule changes. Ask whether your destination requires any vaccinations or special health precautions. Your doctor may flag something you never would have thought to ask about on your own. This one conversation, which might take only 10 or 15 minutes, could protect both your health and the trip you have been looking forward to for months. Let's talk about travel insurance, because it connects directly to everything we just covered about medical clearance and pre-existing conditions. Many travelers over 55 assume travel insurance will cover everything, but most standard policies include a pre-existing condition clause that can leave you financially exposed. To get coverage for conditions you already have, you typically need to purchase your travel insurance within 14 to 21 days of making your first trip deposit. This window is called the pre-existing condition waiver window, and missing it could mean your insurer denies any claim related to a condition you had before buying the policy. So the moment you book your first flight or put down that cruise deposit, Purchasing travel insurance should be your very next step, not something you handle the week before departure. Here is a practical tip that ties everything together. Create what we call a travel health folder before every trip. This folder, whether physical or digital, should contain your complete list of medications and dosages, your physician's contact information, your insurance cards including Medicare, and any supplemental coverage, your real ID or passport copy, and any medical clearance letters your doctor has provided. Think of this folder as your personal travel command center. If anything goes sideways at the airport, during a layover, or at your destination, everything you need is right there in one place. The most important rule about this folder is simple. Keep it accessible throughout your entire journey. That means in your carry-on bag, your personal item, or your phone. Never bury it in checked luggage where you cannot reach it when it matters most. Now let's connect this to cruise travel specifically, since many of you are pairing a flight with a cruise departure. Cruise lines have their own set of medical documentation requirements that go beyond what the airline asks for. If you are boarding a cruise with a medical condition, some lines require you to complete a health questionnaire in advance, and certain conditions may require a doctor's note confirming you can safely participate in the voyage. This is not meant to discourage you from cruising. It is actually the cruise line looking out for your well-being. The key is knowing about these requirements before you show up at the port. Check your cruise line's website under their health and accessibility policies well ahead of your departure date, ideally several weeks in advance. One area cruise travelers often overlook is the ship's medical facility limitations. Cruise ships do have onboard medical staff, but here is the reality. They are simply not equipped for complex procedures or emergencies requiring specialized care. Think of it as a basic urgent care clinic floating in the middle of the ocean. If you experience a serious cardiac event, a stroke, or a severe injury, the ship's medical team can stabilize you, but getting you to a proper hospital is a completely different situation. This is exactly why medical evacuation coverage through your travel insurance is so critical for the 55-plus traveler. If something happens at sea or in a foreign port, medical evacuation costs can reach tens of thousands of dollars without proper coverage protecting you. Let's do a quick recap of the action steps you should take right now. First, check your ID for the real ID star and visit the DMV if needed. Do not wait until the week before your trip. Second, organize your medications and get a printed medication list from your pharmacy or doctor, including dosages and prescribing physician details. Third, if you use a medical device like a CPAP or portable oxygen concentrator, notify your airline in advance and confirm their specific requirements. Fourth, speak with your doctor about fitness to travel and obtain any necessary clearance letters, especially if you have had a recent medical event. Fifth, review your travel insurance policy carefully for pre-existing condition coverage and make sure you are still within that waiver window. These 5 steps could genuinely make or break your entire travel experience. Now I want to hear from you, and I mean that sincerely. Scroll down to the comments right now and tell me this. What is your single biggest worry or question about flying or traveling in 2026? Maybe you are trying to figure out how to get through TSA with a pacemaker or an insulin pump, or perhaps you need to know the exact steps for requesting wheelchair assistance at a massive airport like O'Hare or LAX. Or maybe you are wrestling with a specific airline policy that just does not make sense to you. Whatever it is, drop it down below, because I personally read every single comment that comes through on this channel, every one of them, and your question genuinely might be the spark that turns into our very next video. This community is built on real questions from real travelers just like you. So do not be shy. Do not think your question is too small or too obvious, because I promise you, if you are wondering about it, hundreds of other people watching right now are wondering the exact same thing. So go ahead, scroll down, and let us hear from you.